The story of black people in Argentina is a complex tapestry woven from threads of resilience, erasure, and cultural fusion. It is a history often overlooked, yet central to understanding the nation's identity. This narrative begins with the arrival of enslaved Africans during the colonial period. Their forced migration to the Rio de la Plata region would indelibly shape Argentina's social fabric, cultural landscape, and national identity. From the 16th century onwards, Spanish colonizers shipped thousands of enslaved Africans to Argentina. Buenos Aires, the burgeoning port city, became a major hub in the transatlantic slave trade. The labor of these enslaved individuals was the backbone of the colonial economy. They toiled in agriculture, domestic service, and urban trades, contributing significantly to the wealth and development of the region. The presence of enslaved Africans was so significant that by the 18th century they constituted a considerable proportion of the population in Buenos Aires. This demographic reality is crucial to understanding the dynamics of power, race, and identity in colonial Argentina. Despite their numbers and contributions, Black Argentines face systemic racism and oppression, their history relegated to the margins. From the port of Buenos Aires, ships laden with silver and other goods sailed to Africa. There, traders exchanged their cargo for enslaved Africans, continuing the cycle of exploitation. The Middle Passage, the brutal journey across the Atlantic, was a nightmare of unimaginable cruelty. Chained and crammed into overcrowded vessels, countless Africans perished from disease, starvation, or despair. Those who survived the harrowing voyage arrived in Argentina traumatized and dehumanized. Stripped of their freedom, families, and cultural identity, they were forced into a life of servitude. The transatlantic slave trade left an indelible mark on Argentina, shaping its demography, economy, and social structure for centuries to come. By the late 18th century, Buenos Aires, the heart of the viceroyalty of the Rio de la Plata, was a city transformed. The once small Spanish settlement had grown into a bustling port, its streets teeming with a diverse mix of people. Among them, Africans and their descendants constituted a significant portion of the population. Cultural history and historical records reveal a striking statistic. In 1778, over half of Buenos Aires' inhabitants were of African descent. This demographic reality challenged traditional narratives of Argentine history, which often downplayed or ignored the contributions of black people. The city's cultural landscape reflected this Afro-Argentine presence, with music, dance, and religious practices bearing witness to their heritage. The black majority in Buenos Aires, however, did not translate into social or political power. Enslaved Africans and their descendants remained subject to the whims of the Spanish colonial elite. Despite their numerical dominance, they faced discrimination, prejudice, and limited opportunities. Nevertheless, their presence left an undeniable mark on the city's cultural and social fabric, shaping its unique character.
The fight for freedom and equality in Argentina was a protracted struggle, marked by incremental steps and persistent resistance. The seeds of abolition were sown in the late 18th century, influenced by Enlightenment ideals and the growing movement against slavery in Europe and the Americas.
In 1813, the General Assembly of the United Provinces of the Rio de la Plata, seeking to consolidate national unity and challenge colonial rule, took a significant step. They declared the freedom of wombs, granting liberty to children born to enslaved mothers after that date. This landmark legislation, while not ending slavery outright, represented a significant crack in the edifice of the institution. It also set in motion a gradual process of emancipation that would unfold over the next few decades.
However, the path to full abolition was not without its obstacles. Powerful slaveholders, particularly in rural areas, resisted any attempts to dismantle the system that underpinned their wealth and status. It was not until 1853, with the adoption of a new national constitution, that slavery was finally abolished in Argentina. This long-awaited victory marked a turning point in the nation's history, but it did not erase the legacy of centuries of exploitation and discrimination.
The decades following the abolition of slavery in Argentina witnessed a perplexing phenomenon: the gradual decline in the visibility of the black population. While census data from the late 19th century shows a decrease in the number of self-identified Afro-Argentines. The reasons behind this demographic shift are complex and multifaceted.
Several contributing factors converged to create an environment where blackness became increasingly invisible in the national narrative. High mortality rates among the black population played a significant role in this decline. Lack of access to adequate healthcare, poor living conditions, and the lingering effects of centuries of hardship took a toll. Furthermore, the wars of independence and subsequent internal conflicts disproportionately impacted Afro-Argentines, who often served in the military or were caught in the crossfire.
This decline in numbers, however, cannot be attributed solely to natural or circumstantial factors. A deliberate process of erasure was also at play, driven by a confluence of social and political forces. As Argentina sought to forge a national identity in the wake of independence, European immigration was actively encouraged, while the contributions of Afro-Argentines were minimized or erased from the official narrative.
The wars of the 19th century, while instrumental in shaping Argentina's nationhood, exacted a heavy toll on its black population. From the struggle for independence from Spain to the bloody conflicts that marked the early republic, Afro-Argentines were on the front lines, fighting for a nation that often denied their full humanity. Their sacrifices, however, were often met with indifference or outright erasure from the historical record.
During the war against Spain, black soldiers fought bravely in the ranks of the revolutionary armies. They saw combat in major battles, enduring the same hardships and risking their lives alongside their countrymen. Yet, their contributions were rarely acknowledged in official accounts, perpetuating a narrative of Argentine history that centered on the heroism of the white Creole elite.
The internal conflicts that plagued Argentina in the decades following independence further decimated the black population. Forced conscription into warring factions, exposure to disease and famine, and the general chaos of war took a heavy toll. The Paraguayan War, in particular, proved devastating, with thousands of Afro-Argentines perishing on the battlefield or succumbing to disease.